It's time for Tiki Technical Tuesday, and yes, we are on top of the dusty, dirty drying rack in the glaze room. Why are we here? Well, it's spring cleaning, and I am taking some of these forgotten and abandoned relics from years past and finishing them up. This week, we are tackling one that is giving me, well, I'll be honest, the most anxiety. We have got this Pier Post Bob. It is one of the it's one of the mugs that people really like to collect that we did. Now, we did these a long time ago. In fact, we did these in 2019, so this is like 5 years ago. Now, I have this mug. You know what? Let me just show you. This is what a finished Pier Post Bob looks like. You'll notice that this is not finished. In fact, it's a little problematic because it's only kind of finished. And I don't know why we stopped where we stopped or even where we stopped on this mug. I've had this mug sitting on top of the drying rack in the glaze room for, well, I mean like a long time, since like 2019 long time. So where are we at with the mystery mug here? Well, it's been bisqued. I know that because I'm handling it and it's not falling apart. In fact, I know it's been bisqued twice. So we went in, we bisqued it, we put underglaze onto the crab and onto the starfish, and even onto the rope. And then we bisqued it again to set that underglaze so that it doesn't come off. And then things start to get a little weird. It looks like I also did the inside of the mug before I did that second bisque firing. So there seems to be some sort of glaze on the interior, but it is not fired to completion. It's just kind of, you can tell that it was a glaze that should go to cone 6, but we only went to cone 04. And then I put more underglaze on, looks like more black underglaze. And this looks like it's fired on the top, which is weird. I don't know. So what are we gonna do here? Well, I'm going to try to sponge away some of this underglaze on the top to see if it's set. And then I'm going to probably spray another coat of black underglaze onto the whole bob and then sponge it away because I want to get a little more pop in the face, and you can see we brushed a lot of that away. And then it's kind of a guessing game as to what we want to do next. I have no idea what's inside of here. I have no idea if it's going to fire. I don't know what color the inside is. It's probably gloss black like this, but I really don't know. And then we got to figure out what I want to do for the actual log. I think I'm going to do this. I kind of like this color. This is a leather. It's a Mako SW174 leather. But I also want to do kind of like an algae kind of seeping through in the bottom. So I think I'm going to attempt to do like a greenish base that I'm going to put under the leather. I don't know how it's going to work. Let's find out. First thing first, we got to clean this thing up. Using some compressed air and a stiff brush, I took care of all the dust that has been accumulating on this mug as it has stared at me from the top of the shelf for many, many, many years. Okie dokie. Well, we've got leather. Stoked about that. So this is the Mako leather. I do have a little bit of jet black here. This is the underglaze, black underglaze. And then the big question is the green. I want to do some sort of green that I'm hoping will peek through this leather. And I want it to look like a pier post. It's got, you know, algae and ocean greenness on it. So are we looking at like a light green? I've got a light green here. And I've also got an avocado, which is like a dark green. And I really don't know what will punch through the leather better. This is the big question mark, and I'm not going to do a test on this. I'm just going to go for it. I mean, this thing has been on the shelf for 5 years. Let's just see what happens. Oh, what kind of green? Light green? I don't know. Okay, I made my decision. We're going to go with the light green. I just think it'll look the most oceanic, and I'm hoping that it will punch through the leather without getting too dark. That's the hope. We'll find out if it works. But first, we're going to cover this with black. As always in a spray booth, safety is number one, so I like to protect both my ears and my lungs. We are going for a single uniform coat of Amico Jet Black Underglaze. I just want to get a nice even coat. This stuff is pretty opaque. The black is much less translucent than their other colors, and I do know I'm going to be wiping most of this stuff away when I'm done. That takes us to stage 1 of this glazing adventure, which is just the black underglaze stage. Now, of course, I only want it in the nooks and crannies, so we go straight to the sink, I grab a sponge, and I wipe it away from all the raised areas. I only want it in the nooks and crannies. I want this to look old and weathered, and this is the first step. Well, I guess it's the second step, because here we are at stage 2 of the glazing. All right, we've got the black underglaze onto the mug, and you can see we're catching up with the finished glaze Bob. Now, I've got some decisions to make here before the next steps. I want to do the light green kind of fade from the bottom. I want to go light green to nothing on the top, and then we're going to cover it all with a brown glaze. But I don't want to get the light green onto the rope, onto the sea critters, or onto the face of Bob itself. In the past, I masked the Bob face with just kind of a painter's tape, but I think I might be trying something different for this, just because I think it'll be easier to use for the crazy shapes of the critters and this rope. Will it work? I don't know. We're going to find out. This is all about experimentation. Alrighty, we've got the blue tape on. It looks great. It was weird putting this on because I did this for, I don't know, a few hundred Pier Post Bobs 5 years ago, so it's got that weird muscle memory of doing a task that you did so many times you could do it with your eyes closed. It was strange to do it again. Now, I'm going to now mask the barnacles, the starfish, the rope, and the crab. Now, we didn't do this on the original Pier Post Bobs because I just sprayed glaze over those things and then wiped the glaze back. But before we put that glaze on, I'm putting on this green underglaze, and I don't want to get algae on the crab or the rope or the starfish. So we're going to mask it. I'm going to use this. It is a latex body paint. A big thank you to Biggs Studio for recommending this to me. As a rule, I don't like latex masking. I think it can be tedious to apply. It's stinky. It's hard to clean up. It's hard to see what you've done. This stuff isn't too bad. It's water-based. I got the teal version because it's easy to see what I've done. Now, it does tend to ruin brushes, so I've got two kind of junky brushes that are at the end of their life, and we're going to use that. I think it'll work for these organic shapes. Who knows? Maybe after we film this, I will come back and say, I was right, latex is awful. I don't know, let's find out. It's always good to try new things. Let's go for it. Okay, I'm happy to report that the latex was not that difficult to use. I put on 2 generous coats, and I made sure to dry the latex completely in between coats using a heat gun. And that takes us here to stage 3 in the glazing journey, which is masked and ready for sprayed underglaze. It's algae time. Once I got into the booth, I kind of did the light green and then really started to worry that I needed to get some dark green on there well. So I did the light green pass, and then I went back and changed my paint colors in the gun and did just a small pass of dark green at the very base of the mug. Okay, so we got the green on there. I hope it's okay. I really don't know how opaque this leather glaze is. It may cover this green entirely. It may not. I really don't know. What I do know is now I've got to get all of that latex off of there. And this might be a nightmare. I don't know. Let's find out. That's not bad. Oh, not bad at all. Ooh, that is satisfying. In the end, the latex came off way easier than I remember it coming off of the mugs in the past when I tried using latex. Now, a couple of things I realized in hindsight. 1, this is 2 good thick coats of latex, and 2, I'm using underglaze here. It behaves a little differently than with a thin coat of underglaze than it would if I was using several thick coats of glaze. Which brings us to stage 4 of our glazing journey. It looks like we have got the underglaze on, and it is time to glaze. Or is it? Alrighty, it is the next day, and I have been thinking about this all night. Steps that I want to change, things I want to do differently, things that I think will work. It's been on my mind, to say the least. I mean, it's the last Bob. I want it to work. I really want it to work. With that in mind, I think I'm going to go back and actually mask these barnacles again with the latex. The latex worked really well, and I just think that they would look best if they didn't have any of the actual glaze on them at all. In the past Bobs, I had sprayed the glaze and then wiped them off, but I remember it was tricky wiping it off of the barnacles. So I'm going to put some more latex resist on that, and then we are going to dive in with spraying the final glaze onto this piece. Okay, stage 5, and this time for real, we are ready to spray some glaze onto this Bob. All right, I think that we are ready for spraying the brown glaze. Now, I don't know if this glaze is going to be opaque. I don't know if it's going to cover up all the green. I don't know what's going to happen. Usually I like to do a lot of tests, but we're just going to go for it. I'm just going to follow my heart on this final Pier Post Bob. And it is weird doing this mug, coming back to this mug. Pier Post Bob, lots of memories with this. Two big memories that stick out for me. One, this mold, I made it 5 years ago, and it was before I made mold boxes for my silicone molds. So at that time, I would just make a silicone block mold, and I would pour the plaster in it, and it would warp, and then the mold wouldn't fit together too well. So when I poured these, they just leaked like mad. The slip would pour out of it, and I had to keep refilling and refilling and refilling. It was a bit of a nightmare. Second thing I remember is we had a hard time selling these at first. This was the first mug where we said, we are going to charge what we think is a fair price for these, for us to make a living wage making, instead of trying to compete with prices of mugs made in China. And folks were very supportive of us, but also they didn't jump on board to get the mug. So we did like an open edition on this, saying we're going to allow as many people to order this edition as want to in this. I think we set up like a 10-day period or something like that. And at first, we were worried no one was buying the Pier Post Bob. But once we started shipping them, people really wanted to get them, and it ended up doing really well as an edition. And it was rewarding for us to have made that leap, saying, this is what we really think we need to make in order for us to survive as artists, and then for people to actually pay it. It felt really good. Oh, anyway, I think I am possibly procrastinating because I'm afraid to spray this brown on here, but we're gonna do it. The goal is 3 coats on the top, and we're gonna kind of fade into 2 coats on the bottom, hoping that that's a little more translucent and let some of the green show through. All right, folks, let's go for it. We're using the Mako SW174 leather, and as always, you want to shake your glazes very well. Now, I am pouring it right into my spray booth, my spray gun reservoir here without straining it because I have a strainer built into the lid of this spray gun. I love the spray gun to death. I'll put a link in the show notes for this gun. I cannot believe it, but I forgot to film myself spraying 2 gentle coats on the bottom, 3 coats on the top. Here we are, stage 6 of the journey. We are so close to done with the glazing process, but before we throw this into the kiln, I want to carefully remove the glaze from things that I don't want to have glaze on them, specifically the critters, the rope. I'm looking at the rope, I'm looking at the starfish, and I'm looking at the barnacles. Okay, we are in the home stretch, folks. I just got to take off the last bits of masking. That would be the masking tape on the face and the latex masking on all of these little barnacles, which hopefully comes off just as easily as it did last time. Oh, it does. So we'll get the latex off first, and then we will take off the stuff on the face. So satisfying. Oh, total mess. Oh, so satisfying. Like I said, I want to add just a little bit of glaze to the insides of the eyes. This kind of matches the way that I glazed the original Pier Post Bobs. And with that done, that takes us to this stage in the long journey of this AP Bob. That's right, it is now ready to enter the kiln. All right, it is time for the most difficult phase, and that is waiting for this thing to fire. I am going to be firing some decals on some zombie jugs over there, and then I'm going to fire this the following day with some zombie jugs that needed some touch-ups. So that means I need to use my ceramic patience, and that is so very difficult to do because I want to know how this is going to turn out. Ugh. It's going to be a rough couple of days. Okie dokie, it is Saturday morning. I looked at my little app on my phone and saw that the kiln is at 700 degrees. So I'm popping into the studio to open some windows in here to cool things off so that I can look inside of this kiln. This is going to be the hardest part, is waiting for the kiln to cool. Things are still pretty hot in here. The kiln's at like 720 degrees. So to speed things up, I'm going to shut off the vent system and open up windows. It's pretty cool outside right now. I think it's about 55 or 60 degrees. And I'm also going to pull out all of the vent plugs on the kiln to let some more air circulate in there. Okay, it's a couple hours later. The kiln's at 494 degrees. And I have taken the flashlight and peeked into this little peek hole here, and of course I put the zombie in front of the people, so I can see mostly a zombie jug, but just a little sliver of the Bob, and it's pretty brown. I don't think we're going to see any of that green through the brown. It looks okay through the little like quarter-inch of it I can see. I mean, it looks like a nice brown. Oh man, I'm going to let this cool just a little bit more, and then I'm going to crack the lid. Hopefully, God, I hope by this afternoon I can look inside. This is the torturous part. This tortures me. Okay, I'm back. It's a couple hours later. It's now 344 degrees in the kiln. I'm going to just crack the lid a little bit, go do some yard work for an hour or two, and then hopefully we'll be able to look inside of this today. Oh, I hope we can open it. I hope we can open it. This is killing me. I'm sure I mentioned this earlier, but this is the hardest part. All right, it is Sunday, and full disclosure time, yesterday afternoon, the kiln did get cool enough for me to crack open. It was like at 217 degrees. So I shot a video of me opening it up and taking out the finished Pier Post Bob. And unfortunately, somehow the audio got corrupted and I couldn't use it. So I've shot this little reenactment, which takes us to here. So here it is, the final Bob, but is it? So in that video where the audio got lost, I talked about the cognitive dissonance that I have as a potter, something that I'm learning to overcome in my journey of ceramics, where I have in my head what I want it to look like, and then I have the reality of what I get after the chemical process of firing ground glass in a kiln and sticking it to a ceramic body. This is very brown. Now, I'm not against brown. It's Bob. Bob is supposed to be brown, but I really kind of got fixated on having that kind of algae on the bottom of this pier post, and I'm sad that it's not there. So I went for a long run this morning, and during the entire run, all I could think about was trying to spray a little bit of underglaze over this glaze with the hopes that some of the green will show up. And I think that's what we're gonna do. I know you're probably thinking, it looks great right now, just stop while you're ahead. But I can't, I cannot stop. I just want to see a little more green on this. It may not work. Maybe this will be a bad idea, but let's find out together, okay? Putting more green onto this Bob means we get to do more masking, which means we get to peel the old latex out of the cup, perhaps one of the most satisfying things you can do when using latex masking. So satisfying. I put a coat of latex masking onto the face, the rope, the crab, the starfish, and all the little barnacles. Then we hit the spray booth where I feathered on a single coat of the green underglaze. Now I went ahead and put on one coat for the kind of the fade up the pier post, and then I went back with the heat gun, dried things up, and put a second and just a little bit of a third coat onto the base of the pier post. I want this to look like a lot of algae on the bottom, not so much algae on the top, kind of like tides or, you know, rising and falling. You get the picture. It's like algae. And with the underglaze on, we are up to, oh my gosh, I think we're at stage 9 of the Pier Post Bob process. Wow. Okay, latex masking, real talk. It's Sunday. I was in a hurry. I thought one coat would be fine. One coat is not fine. One coat is definitely not fine. If you're going to try latex masking, 2 coats is required, or else it's a nightmare to get off. 2 coats. Okay, we are going to try this one more time. Now, I know you are wondering what these poles are around the Bob, and that's because this Bob is too big to fit into the doll kiln. It's just too tall, and I don't have anything else that needs a glaze firing right now. But I like to have like a thermal mass around the bob while it fires, just kind of to even out the temperature and even out the cooling and warming of the piece. Maybe it's ceramic superstition, I don't know. I've seen other artists do it, and I do think it helps keep the glazes uniform. Is this gonna work? I really don't know, but I have high hopes. I'm staying optimistic, and I'm also really hoping that I can get this all wrapped up in time for Tuesday. Cross your fingers. The next day, I got to do the dance that all ceramic artists know very well, and that is checking the kiln every hour or two, waiting for the thing to cool off enough for me to be able to open it. 251 degrees, we're going to risk it. Do I like to wait until 200 degrees? Yes, I do, but I just want to know what's in here, and I don't want to have to wait through lunch. I will just think about it all lunch. I gotta know how this second firing works. Now here is that magical moment that I'm going to share with you in total honesty of, I don't know what's in here. I have an idea in my head, and I don't want to get too attached to what is in my head because I have no control really over what's inside of here. In fact, Denise is usually the one that opens the kilns because I get so fixated on what's in my head that I'll look inside and be like, oh, it's terrible. And she's like, no, it's not terrible. They're great. You are just comparing it to what's in your head. Okay, so that being said, let's see how that second coat of green underglaze went down. I don't even know if you can see the green. It's definitely warm in here. I see some hint of green. Oh. Okay. Okay, that's pretty awesome. Oh, I'm so glad we did the second firing! Ha ha! Here we are, 10 steps and 2 firings later. We have got a beautiful algae green base on this AP Pier Post Bob. This is it. Final steps for this mug. Once again, I can't believe how good it came out. I am so glad I took that step of doing the green. I almost didn't do it. I mean, it was fine without the green, but now it is extra fine. At any rate, I want to thank you all for joining me on this Bob adventure. If you'd like to learn more about my little photo setup here, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll do a future episode of Tiki Technical Tuesday about it. Speaking of future episodes, if you're wondering what all of this is, I'm making a lamp for the Tiki Oasis lamp show, and I'm very excited about it. And, of course, I'm filming a future episode of Tiki Technical Tuesday all about it. Anyways, I'm going to leave you a couple links to other videos that might interest you. I hope that you like, I hope that you subscribe, and I want to thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next episode of Tiki Technical Tuesday. Wow.